Country music has witnessed countless legendary performers, yet not all of them escape the shadows lurking behind their success. Beneath the glitz and acclaim, several of these celebrated artists succumb to addiction and turmoil, their lives unraveling in shocking and tragic ways. From erratic actions to deeply personal battles, we delve into the stories of the 15 most notorious addicts in country music history, tales so wild they left audiences stunned. 15. Randy Travis, A Descent into Darkness. Randy Travis once stood as a beacon of country music, his rich, soulful voice and heartfelt lyrics earning him widespread admiration. Throughout the 1980s, he dominated the charts, securing numerous awards and selling millions of records. However, behind the scenes, Travis grappled with personal demons that would eventually overshadow his career. His struggle with alcoholism didn't emerge overnight. It was a gradual decline fueled by the relentless pressures of fame. The music industry is notoriously demanding, and many artists turn to alcohol as a coping mechanism. For Travis, his downward spiral intensified following the collapse of his marriage to Elizabeth Hatcher Travis, his longtime manager, in 2010. The emotional toll of their separation drove him deeper into dependency. Fans were blindsided when his troubles spilled into the public eye, culminating in a highly publicized 2012 arrest in Texas. Authorities found him disoriented, intoxicated, and lying naked on a roadside, an incident that shattered his clean-cut image. Once revered as a wholesome country icon, Travis suddenly became tabloid fodder. His drinking not only damaged his reputation but also derailed his career, costing him opportunities and jeopardizing his health. Then, in 2013, tragedy struck when he suffered a near-fatal stroke. Doctors doubted he would survive, let alone sing again. Miraculously, he defied the odds, though his speech never fully recovered. Despite this, Travis has since made inspirational appearances, proving his resilience in the face of adversity. 14. Travis Tritt, The High Cost of Rebellion. Travis Tritt burst onto the country scene with electrifying performances and a rebellious charm. Hits like Here's a Quarter, Call Someone Who Cares, and Trouble cemented his place in the genre. But behind his success lay a fierce battle with addiction, one that threatened to derail everything. Tritt's substance abuse didn't happen overnight. The fast-paced lifestyle of the 1990s music scene exposed him to endless temptations. Touring relentlessly, he turned to alcohol and drugs to cope with exhaustion and the pressures of fame. What began as casual indulgence soon spiraled into dependency, affecting both his performances and personal life. Fans and critics noticed the changes: slurred words, lackluster stage presence, and a decline in his once sharp energy. Industry insiders questioned his reliability, and rumors spread, leading to missed career opportunities. While he avoided the public meltdowns of some peers, the toll on his relationships and reputation was undeniable. Fortunately, Tritt eventually turned his life around, distancing himself from destructive habits and refocusing on his music with renewed dedication. 13. Tammy Wynette, Painkillers and Heartache. Tammy Wynette, the First Lady of Country Music, captivated audiences with her powerful voice and timeless hits like Stand By Your Man. Yet beneath her glamorous persona lay a painful struggle with addiction, one rooted in necessity rather than excess. Unlike many stars who turned to substances for recreation, Wynette's reliance on painkillers began for legitimate medical reasons. Years of chronic pain and multiple surgeries led doctors to prescribe medication, which initially provided relief. But as her career demands grew, so did her dependence. The grueling tour schedule left her exhausted, and pills became her crutch to push through performances. Over time, her health deteriorated. Fans noticed her once strong voice wavering, and she often appeared frail on stage. Behind the scenes, her personal life was equally turbulent, including a stormy marriage to fellow country star George Jones, who battled his own alcoholism. By the time of her death in 1998, years of substance abuse had taken a devastating toll on her body. Chapter 12. Hank Williams Jr., The Burden of Legacy. Hank Williams Jr. entered the world as the heir to a country music dynasty, carrying the weight of his father's legendary status from birth. While he inherited Hank Williams Sr.'s raw musical talent, he also faced the same personal demons that plagued his family name. Substance abuse became a defining struggle in his life, affecting his health, career, and public persona, but his troubles didn't emerge overnight. From an early age, Hank Jr. wrestled with the immense pressure of living up to his father's legacy. Initially, he tried replicating his father's sound, but the expectations proved overwhelming. As he grew older, he rebelled against the comparisons, forging his own identity in the outlaw country movement. However, this newfound independence came at a cost. Excessive drinking and drug use became part of his lifestyle. In 1975, a near-fatal accident on Montana's Ajax Peak changed everything. A 500-foot fall left him with devastating facial and head injuries, requiring multiple reconstructive surgeries. The excruciating pain led to a dependence on prescription painkillers, which soon spiraled into full-blown addiction. What began as medical necessity turned into a destructive habit, fueling erratic behavior and public controversies. His hard-living persona attracted fans, but it also pushed him towards self-destruction. Professionally, his reliability was questioned, and his personal life suffered through failed marriages and instability. Yet despite these battles, Hank Jr. fought his way back, reclaiming his career and proving his resilience in the face of adversity. Glen Campbell, the Rhinestone Cowboy's fall from grace. Glen Campbell was a country music icon, beloved for his smooth voice and timeless hits like Rhinestone Cowboy and Wichita Lineman. Yet behind the glitz of fame, he waged a private war against addiction, one that nearly destroyed everything he had built. His struggles with alcohol and drugs ushered in a dark era of personal turmoil, legal troubles, and a career in jeopardy. Campbell's downfall was gradual. At the height of his fame in the 1970s, he was everywhere, touring, recording, and starring in television shows. The relentless pace took its toll, and like many artists, he turned to substances to cope. Alcohol became a constant companion, and eventually, cocaine entered the picture, giving him a fleeting escape from exhaustion and pressure. As his addiction deepened, the cracks began to show. His once polished performances grew inconsistent, and his behavior turned unpredictable. He missed shows, arrived late, and sometimes appeared visibly impaired. Fans and industry insiders took notice, and his reputation suffered. His personal life mirrored the chaos. His turbulent relationship with singer Tanya Tucker, riddled with substance-fueled drama, made headlines. Legal troubles followed, most notably a 2003 arrest for DUI and assault, further tarnishing his image. It seemed the Rhinestone Cowboy was unraveling. But Campbell refused to let addiction define him. He sought help, conquered his demons, and staged a triumphant comeback. Even as Alzheimer's disease later clouded his final years, he was remembered not just for his music, but for his courage in overcoming his darkest battles. A true legend who faced his struggles head-on. For 10, Willie Nelson, The Outlaw's Rocky Road. Willie Nelson stands as one of country music's most iconic figures, renowned for his distinctive vocals, free-spirited attitude, and decades-spanning career. While often celebrated as a symbol of resilience and nonconformity, particularly for his open embrace of cannabis, Nelson's journey hasn't been without turbulence. His relationship with substances and legal troubles has shaped his life in ways that extend far beyond his musical legacy. From early on, Nelson's association with marijuana became a cornerstone of his identity, setting him apart from peers who battled addictions to harder drugs. Unlike those who struggled in secrecy, Nelson was vocal about his cannabis use, even advocating for its benefits. However, this openness came with consequences. Law enforcement frequently targeted him, leading to multiple arrests that only solidified his reputation as a defiant rebel. While his cannabis-related incidents made headlines, it was financial disaster that nearly derailed him completely. In the 1990s, Nelson faced a crushing IRS debt totaling millions due to mismanaged taxes. The government seized his properties, including his beloved ranch, a devastating blow that would have ended most careers. But Nelson, ever the fighter, refused to surrender. He recorded an album specifically to pay off his debt, and with unwavering fan support, he clawed his way back from ruin. Through every setback, Nelson's artistry never dimmed. His raw authenticity and musical genius kept audiences devoted, proving that even amid personal chaos, his legend only grew stronger. 9. Billy Joe Shaver, the outlaw's hard-lived truth. Billy Joe Shaver embodied the gritty soul of outlaw country, his rough-hewn lyrics and unpolished voice helping shape the genre's rebellious identity. But behind his tough-as-nails persona lay decades of addiction, legal battles, and personal demons, a life as turbulent as the songs he wrote. Shaver's struggles began early, forged in a difficult upbringing where music offered escape, and substances provided temporary relief. As his career took off in the 1970s, the wild lifestyle of the outlaw scene consumed him. The non-stop touring, hard drinking, and drug use that defined the era became his downfall. What started as coping mechanisms spiraled into full-blown dependency, derailing his reliability and straining relationships. Concerts were missed or performed in disarray, marriages crumbled, and his personal life teetered on instability. Yet his most shocking moment came in 2007, when he was arrested for shooting a man outside a Texas bar. Claiming self-defense, Shaver faced a media firestorm that amplified his already notorious reputation. Despite it all, Shaver's songwriting brilliance and unshakable spirit kept him revered in country circles. In his later years, he found ways to temper his demons, channeling his pain into music until the very end, a testament to the raw, unfiltered heart of outlaw country. 8. Merle Haggard, from convict to country legend. Merle Haggard's life story reads like one of his own songs, a hardscrabble tale of rebellion, redemption, and remarkable talent. Before becoming one of country music's most revered voices, he walked a dangerous path filled with crime, substance abuse, and incarceration. His journey from San Quentin prisoner to country music royalty stands as one of the genre's most inspiring transformations. Growing up in Depression-era California, Haggard knew hardship from childhood. His father's death left deep scars, and by his teenage years, he was already spiraling into delinquency. Petty theft, bar fights, and underage drinking became regular occurrences as young Merle bounced between homes, sometimes living as a drifter hopping freight trains. What began as youthful rebellion escalated into serious crime, culminating in a botched diner robbery that landed the 20-year-old in San Quentin State Prison. Behind bars, Haggard's life took its pivotal turn. A prison performance by Johnny Cash sparked something in the young convict, awakening his musical ambitions. After his release, he channeled his hard-lived experiences into songwriting, crafting raw, honest lyrics about struggle and second chances. His authentic voice quickly earned recognition, but fame brought its own demons. The pressures of stardom led Haggard down familiar paths of excess. Alcohol and drugs threatened to undo his hard-won success. For years, he battled these addictions before finally finding stability. In his later years, Haggard transformed his troubled past into artistic gold, creating music that resonated deeply with working-class America and cementing his legacy as one of country's greatest truth-tellers. 7. George Jones, the voice that survived. Its owner, George Jones, possessed what many consider the purest voice in country music history, but his legendary talent nearly drowned in a sea of alcohol. His decades-long battle with drinking earned him the unfortunate nickname No-Show Jones, and created some of country music's most outrageous anecdotes. None more famous than the time he drove a riding lawnmower to buy liquor after his wife hid his car keys. Jones's descent into alcoholism followed a familiar Nashville trajectory. The hard-working, clean-cut young singer who first entered the business gradually succumbed to the pressures of fame. Grueling tour schedules, industry demands, and personal demons turned casual drinking into a crippling addiction that made him famously unreliable. Promoters hesitated to book him, fans never knew if he'd appear, and his personal life crumbled under the weight of his dependency. Yet through the chaos, Jones' voice remained untouched by his vices. Even at his worst, when he might stumble on stage or miss shows entirely, when he did sing, that incomparable baritone could still break hearts. His struggles only made his performances more poignant, as if every note carried the weight of his personal battles. After hitting rock bottom multiple times, Jones finally found sobriety through the support of his fourth wife, Nancy. His late career resurgence proved the voice that defined country music could outlast even its owner's worst demons. When he passed in 2013, Jones left behind not just a catalog of timeless music, but a testament to the redemptive power of talent and perseverance. Both Haggard and Jones represent country music's dual nature, the genre's ability to reflect life's hardest truths while offering hope for redemption. Their stories of struggle and survival remain etched in the very DNA of country music, reminding us that sometimes the most beautiful art grows from the darkest soil. Six, Steve Earle, The Outlaw's Redemption Song. Steve Earle emerged as one of country music's most gifted storytellers, renowned for his unflinching lyrics and rebellious spirit. Yet behind his celebrated songwriting lay a brutal battle with addiction that nearly destroyed everything. His decades-long struggle with substance abuse led to legal troubles, broken relationships, and years lost to the darkness of dependency, before an extraordinary comeback cemented his legacy as both a survivor and an artist. Earle's troubles began at what should have been his peak. During the 1980s Nashville boom, he stood out as a rising star with 3 consecutive gold albums, blending country tradition with rock energy. But the same intensity that fueled his music also drove him toward hard living. What started as recreational drug use among fellow musicians spiraled into full-blown heroin addiction by the late 80s. As his dependency grew, Earle's once promising career imploded. Concerts were canceled mid-tour, recording sessions abandoned, and industry allies grew wary of his unreliability. His marriage collapsed, finances evaporated, and by 1994, he found himself incarcerated on drug and weapons charges. Prison became his rock bottom, but also his turning point. After multiple rehab attempts, Earle emerged sober in the late 90s with a creative resurgence that stunned the music world. His post-recovery work, particularly the Grammy-winning The Mountain with the Del McCoury Band, revealed new depth drawn from his struggles. Today, Earle stands as Nashville's ultimate survivor, proof that even the darkest addictions can't extinguish true talent when met with unshakable determination. Five, David Allan Coe, country music's most notorious outlaw. David Allan Coe embodied outlaw country at its most authentic and most self-destructive. Behind the undeniable brilliance of songs like "You Never Even Called Me by My Name" lay a life of chaos, addiction, and constant brushes with the law that made him equal parts revered and feared in Nashville circles. His substance-fueled antics became the stuff of legend, often overshadowing his musical genius. Coe's rebellious streak predated his fame. Raised in reform schools and prisons, he spent his youth cycling through juvenile detention and eventually Ohio State Penitentiary, where he began writing songs. After release, he lived in a cave outside Nashville before breaking into the music business, bringing with him all the volatility of his hardscrabble upbringing. As his career took off in the 1970s, Coe dove headfirst into the era's excesses. Cocaine, alcohol, and various illicit substances fueled increasingly erratic behavior. Missed shows, violent outbursts, and stunts like recording an entire X-rated album. Multiple arrests followed, including a notorious incident where he allegedly shot a man over a drug dispute. Yet through the chaos, Coe's raw talent never dimmed. His songs, often autobiographical tales of prisoners, outcasts, and hard-living rebels, resonated deeply with fans who saw past his notoriety. While he never achieved the mainstream success his songwriting deserved, his influence echoes through generations of country artists who followed. Coe's life proved the outlaw image wasn't just a persona, it was a hard-lived reality with consequences that nearly destroyed him, yet somehow never completely extinguished his creative fire. Both Earle and Coe represent country music's complicated relationship with rebellion, the way artistic brilliance often walks hand in hand with self-destruction, and how the very struggles that threaten to destroy an artist can also fuel their most powerful work. Their stories serve as both cautionary tales and testaments to the redemptive power of music. 4. Waylon Jennings, the outlaw who fought his own demons. Waylon Jennings didn't just define outlaw country, he lived it. With his gravelly baritone and uncompromising musical vision, He became the defiant voice of a generation that rejected Nashville's polished conventions. But behind the iconic image of the denim-clad rebel lay a private war with addiction that nearly cost him everything. At the height of his fame, Jennings was burning through $1,500 a day on cocaine, a staggering habit that threatened to destroy both his career and his life. Jennings's descent into addiction followed his meteoric rise in the 1970s. As his outlaw movement revolutionized country music, the relentless demands of stardom, constant touring, recording sessions, and industry pressures drove him toward chemical coping mechanisms. What began as recreational use quickly spiraled into full-blown dependency, with cocaine becoming the fuel that kept him going through marathon studio sessions and performances. The consequences were devastating. Jennings blew through fortunes on drugs and impulsive purchases, his behavior growing increasingly erratic. Relationships frayed under the strain of his addiction, and legal troubles mounted, culminating in a 1977 drug bust that served as his wake-up call. Facing the prospect of prison, Jennings made the agonizing decision to quit cold turkey, locking himself in his home for weeks to endure the brutal withdrawal process alone. His hard-won sobriety became one of country music's most inspiring redemption stories. Jennings not only resurrected his career, but became a beacon for others struggling with addiction, proving even the hardest-living outlaws could change. When he passed in 2002, he was remembered not just for his musical revolution, but for the personal battles he fought and won. Three. Keith Whitley, the voice that alcohol silenced. Keith Whitley possessed one of the purest, most emotionally devastating voices in country music history. His 1988 classic Don't Close Your Eyes remains one of the genre's most perfect performances, which makes his alcohol-related death, at just 34, all the more tragic. Whitley's story stands as country music's most heartbreaking cautionary tale about addiction's destructive power. Whitley's relationship with alcohol began in his Kentucky childhood, where drinking was woven into the fabric of musical gatherings. By his teens, he was already showing signs of dependency, though his extraordinary talent initially overshadowed his drinking. As his star rose in the 1980s Nashville scene, alcohol became both his coping mechanism and his tormentor, a way to numb the pressures of fame and personal insecurities. The signs of trouble were evident to those close to him. Whitley would show up to recording sessions visibly impaired, sometimes unable to perform. His wife, country star Lori Morgan, staged interventions and poured out liquor bottles, but the addiction had taken root too deeply. Industry colleagues watched in dismay as one of country's greatest vocalists slowly drank himself to death. The end came with cruel suddenness on May 9, 1989. After a night of heavy drinking at a neighbor's house, Whitley was found lifeless in his bed, his blood alcohol level a fatal 47. Nashville reeled from the loss, mourning not just the artist he was, but the legendary career that might have been. Today, Whitley's brief catalog remains sacred text for country purists, his voice forever frozen in its prime, a bittersweet reminder of talent cut short by addiction's grip. These two stories represent the dual faces of addiction in country music, Jennings's hard-won redemption contrasting with Whitley's tragic demise. Together, they form a powerful meditation on the costs of artistic genius and the destructive allure of substances that promise escape, but often deliver only pain. Their legacies continue to resonate, reminding us that in country music, as in life, the line between triumph and tragedy can be heartbreakingly thin. Chapter 2. Hank Williams Sr., the Tormented Troubadour. Hank Williams Sr. stands as perhaps the most influential figure in country music history, a raw-voiced poet who gave shape to the genre's soul. His brutally honest lyrics and haunting melodies created the blueprint for modern country songwriting. Yet behind this towering legacy was a man consumed by addiction, a battle that would claim his life before he reached 30 years old, leaving behind a musical legacy that continues to resonate 7 decades later. Williams's struggles began almost simultaneously with his fame. As his star rose meteorically in the late 1940s with hits like Move It On Over and Lovesick Blues, the pressures of stardom collided with his lifelong spinal condition, spina bifida occulta, and emotional instability. Alcohol became his first crutch, then morphine prescribed for chronic pain. a combination that quickly spiraled into full-blown addiction. The consequences were devastating and immediate. The once professional young performer became notorious for drunken no-shows and erratic behavior. He was fired from the Grand Ole Opry in 1952 after missing shows, and his marriage to Audrey Williams disintegrated amid drunken rages. Yet even as his personal life collapsed, Williams continued producing timeless classics like Cold, Cold Heart and I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, songs that seemed to channel his pain into art. His final act played out on New Year's Day, 1953, when Williams, just 29 years old, was found dead in the backseat of his Cadillac en route to a concert in Ohio. The official cause was heart failure, but everyone knew the real culprit: years of substance abuse that had ravaged his body. In death, Williams became country music's first tragic icon, his brief life serving as both inspiration and warning about the cost of genius. Part 1. Johnny Paycheck, the outlaw who lived his lyrics. Johnny Paycheck didn't just sing about rebellion, he lived it. His 1977 working-class anthem, "Take This Job and Shove It," became the battle cry for millions. But few knew how closely Paycheck's own turbulent life mirrored his songs. Behind the outlaw bravado was a man consumed by addiction, to alcohol, to drugs, and to the self-destructive lifestyle that nearly destroyed him before he could achieve redemption. Paycheck's demons emerged early in his career. Born Donald Lytle, he adopted his stage name while playing bass for George Jones's band in the 1960s, and absorbing Jones's hard-drinking ways. As his solo career took off, Paycheck embraced the outlaw image completely, with cocaine and whiskey fueling marathon recording sessions and increasingly volatile behavior. By the 1980s, addiction had taken full control. Paycheck's shows became unpredictable, his health deteriorated, and his temper led to violent outbursts. The breaking point came in 1985 when, during a bar fight in Ohio, he shot a man in the head. The victim survived. The subsequent prison sentence forced Paycheck to confront his addictions. He emerged sober in 1991, but his career never fully recovered. Paycheck's story stands as country music's most visceral example of life imitating art. The same combustible energy that made "Take This Job and Shove It" resonate with working-class America also fueled his personal destruction. Yet in his final years, the cleaned-up Paycheck found peace, his hard-won sobriety proving that even the most authentic outlaw could change, even if the world still prefers to remember him at his most dangerous. These two legends represent the dual nature of country music's relationship with addiction. Williams, the tragic poet whose pain birthed timeless art, and Paycheck, the living embodiment of rebellion who ultimately outlived his own myth. Their stories remind us that in country music, the line between creative fuel and destructive force is often perilously thin, and that the most authentic voices frequently pay the highest price for their art. If you found these stories compelling, don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out our next video, where we explore more unforgettable moments from country music history.